tuning in to another Sunday's Food for Thoughts. Today we are going to be talking about foreplay. Give or take. Is it a lack of knowledge or a lack of effort? I thought this was a really good topic to cover just because someone hit my inbox and asked me about it. And I'm all for giving helpful tips when I can to women and men. So as we go through some of these different subtopics today, y'all feel free to chime in. Let me know what your thoughts are. Again, opinions, comments, whatever. Y'all bring it to me. So, talking about foreplay. First things first, what constitutes as foreplay? I think a lot of us make the mistake of assuming that it's just physical. And it's actually mental. And we're going to dive into that. The mental versus the physical side of foreplay. Because, number one, if your head's not in it, then it doesn't feel as good. You got to be mentally there to get it. The build-up, the mental build-up is everything. What your likes are and your dislikes are, is the chemistry right, And a lot of times, we see someone, man or a woman, depending on what your preference is, and, we may find them attractive, and then that's when, I don't care who you are, everybody has that thought of, sex eventually, whether it's the first time you see someone or, after you get a chance to talk to them. And let's just say, for instance, the chemistry is going well as far as conversations go, but when it comes down to getting into the act, it falls flat. And a lot of times we make the mistake of not having that conversation ahead of time. We just assume that this person is supposed to know what is going to, get us going ahead of time. And I think that having the conversation ahead of time, getting to know someone's likes and dislikes is really important because that allows you to know what to do. And you get into the habit of a lot of, and I don't know if it's mostly female or man, so I'm not going to put it just on one, but a lot of us may make the mistake of talking about, what we can do and how we're going to do it, and it's just kind of overkill. And then it ends up being a situation where, you can't deliver that. So, the ones that overpromise and underdeliver, that's a red flag right there. When you continuously keep saying, oh, this is what I'm going to do and this is what I can do. There's a way to have that conversation without it being overkill. Because I think that when you think too much into it, it kind of, there's no more excitement there. Especially if you get to the point where you're just assuming this person is just going to, sparks is going to fly, they're going to turn you out and everything else. And they don't deliver properly, based on assumption or them talking up what they're able to do and really can't do. So definitely have those type of conversations ahead of time so and then ahead of time in advance to where it's not something that you already know is coming. Element of surprise, A lot of times normal things, normal stimulation doesn't necessarily work for everyone. And I notice most men make this mistake. They assume that those normal 3 to 5 things that you do on every woman is going to work for every single one. And then when you meet someone that it doesn't work on and there's no excitement there, and this can work both ways for women as well, and men, that it doesn't work. Well, that's because you went into it with assumption and not, doing your homework ahead of time. So anyways, whatever floats your boat in that area. When it comes down to, and this is just mental buildup, depending on what you like as far as mental stimulation, whether it is, texting, phone conversations, just little stuff, just getting to know a person for that build-up moment. The physical side of things, people don't realize that there are so many different places on your body that are stimulating. We think that, especially when it comes to women, men may feel that, their breast or, their hoo-ha or just small things stimulates the body, and that's all you have to do, when really it's certain pressure points on your skin, on your body, that can make you be more, aroused and get you to that point. The feet is one way, but there's a number of different ways. Like I said, you guys do your research on your own. I can't speak for those, because I have my own personal preference, and I'm sure everybody has their own personal preference, but it's always good to do the research and take your time. And the only way you can really do that research is if you are communicating with the person that you are dealing with. This does not goes for the ones that, are in situations where, you just get a jump off. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. This is for the ones who are dealing with a specific person, or you are interested in someone and you know that it's going to get to that point. Do your research first. When it comes down to, hold on, I got some water. Oh man. So to me, the answer to what, constitutes foreplay depends on the person. Whether you prefer mental or physical or both. But like I said, do your research on the other person ahead of time. Anyways, moving along. Couple things that I kind of bounced back and forth with one of my friends was, what is the root of foreplay? Like, how does that work? And of course, I brainstorm on a lot, but I came up with that, it's desire. What makes you feel desired? For men and women, is it a situation where you like, I don't know, a person to pamper you ahead of time? Or if it's more so the mood, the lighting, the music, you know what I mean? What makes you feel desired? So once you answer that question for yourself, it'll be easier for you to go into and explain it to another person, so that way they know what to do, so both of you guys are satisfied. And again, like I said, is it more of a mental desire? Is it more of a physical desire? That's something that you have to decide for yourselves, but figure out what makes you feel desired. And then that process goes way smoother. You'll be able to enjoy it way better once you figure that out. Because it's a big difference between being desired and feeling like you're being used. And I know that, maybe some of my ladies can relate to this, where, you meet someone and, it's about to go down. Y'all about to get it in. And there's no build up. It's just straight, let's get to it. You know what I mean? It kind of makes you feel like almost being used. Like, regardless of how attractive that person is, what size it is, if it fits you, whatever the case may be, if there's no type of stimulation ahead of time, there's no way for us to really enjoy it. So definitely deal with someone who is going to meet and make you feel desired, because I'm telling you, you'll enjoy it a lot better. And that, that goes to, for women who have never experienced a real orgasm with another person. Because you're missing the build-up. You're missing that foreplay. You're missing the feeling of being desired ahead of time. And you go through your whole life, and some women that go through their whole life where they just never really had that type of sensation. I have friends that come to me and tell me, like, hey, I've never experienced an orgasm with another person, so I don't know how it feels like. I've experienced it with a toy or myself, but not with another person. So a lot of times, and I'm going to get more into this as far as, when it comes to a lack of knowledge or a lack of effort. Hey, Jadea. As far as the root of foreplay, like I said before, it's what makes you feel desired. And a lot of times that is also the root of people that cheat, because it's a lack of desire there. It don't necessarily have to be sexually. It can be just wanting that person around or desiring that person. And that's just something to think about. Hold on, y'all. What we got? So, and like I said before in the beginning of this, I'm not going to take up too much time today because I know it's nice out. We got a lot to do. And I'm trying to get, my videos uploaded as much as possible, as quickly as possible, so that way you guys have more access to it. But anyways, moving along. Pleasure principle. This is something, and I'm not talking about Janet Jackson's song, Pleasure Principle. There's a known psychologist, Sigmund Freud, came up with the pleasure principle. And you guys do the research on this. I try to put facts in my video. But he came up with the theory that fantasy versus reality. A lot of times in our ID, which is more of like a personality trait, in the beginning stages, we as human beings, we act on things without being conscious of them. And it starts at a young age. And this is outside of, sex talk. This is just in general. And he believed that the pleasure principle comes from an unconscious level where you have an urge or a need or a want, whether it be food, whatever the case may be. And a way to separate fantasy versus reality. And a lot of times in the beginning of this, we don't realize that because, it starts from infancy on up. So we don't know that we are reacting off these urges or know like what is a good urge and what's a bad urge. Well, he said that it moves into adulthood as well. And then when you get to the point where, you become sexually active or start having those sexual feelings right around puberty, this is why these teenagers, run around during that time frame and can't get their hormones under control because of that pleasure principle. But they start to realize at that age what is right and what's wrong. What are they able to react on quickly? And again, that goes into fantasy versus reality. So the whole basis of the pleasure principle is satisfying your needs physically and mentally. Not going to get into other things because we are talking about foreplay and talking about sex, but that pleasure principle applies to all of our urges. So you guys do the research on that. Sigmund Freud. But yeah. Separating fantasy versus reality. Again, communication. A lot of times, we'll have a fantasy of something, but we don't necessarily act on it out of being, embarrassed about that, or shying away from it, because we're worried about what other people think. You know what I mean? So when you're having these conversations with your mate, significant other, husband, wife, whatever you want to call it, it's good to be open-minded because nobody wants to feel embarrassed about what their fantasy is. And then that helps with you being able to turn it into a reality. So that way it's satisfying for both parties. Because one thing's for sure, a lot of men will allow us to practice. And I notice that most men shy away from expressing what their fantasies are, especially when it comes to their significant other or someone that they're just meeting. And I'm not saying all, I'm saying some. But a lot of times, like I said, men don't allow us to practice until we learn, and most women won't say anything at all. So if, you have a man or whatever and you guys are intimate and he's not doing it right, a lot of us will just be quiet. And go along with the flow instead of speaking up. And again, as I said in a previous video, it's a way that you let someone know if they're doing it correctly. You know what I mean? Or if it's something that you don't like, politely, without being rude about it. Because I know some of us out there are rude and tell them, oh, he's trash. You know what I mean? Or, with a female, like, it was alright, but whatever. Or you won't say nothing at all. You know what I mean? So it's good to have that conversation and be able to let that person know, especially if this is someone that you are, sleeping with on a consistent basis. Hey, Aunt. Hey, Morgana. How are you guys? I always leave the floor open, as I said before, for the ones that are coming in here a little bit after we started. If you guys want to come on, voice your opinions on Foreplay, feel free to do that. Let me know in the comments. I am still giving out free Get Black to It t-shirts as well as woke t-shirts. And if you guys do not know what they look like, they are posted on the page. Y'all let me know. The floor is open. Like I said, this is not going to be very long, just because sometimes I don't like to hear myself talk, you guys, you know what I mean? What'd you say, Morgana? You said I'm saying something and giving tutorials. Okay, all right. Hey, Marquise. So, you giving tutorials? Girl, where are you giving the tutorials at? I need to see this for sure. But yeah, let me know if you guys, any of you want to come on. Like I said, we'll bring you on and get it popping. But anyways, back to what I was saying about the pleasure principle. A lot of us, and I'm not going to say all, but a lot of us, men and women, don't really even know how to provide pleasure. You know, and that's not something that can be necessarily taught. You know what I mean? It's not like, you know, teaching somebody how to work out their finance or how to, you know, get their hygiene together. I don't know many moms and fathers out there that will go through and take the time to tell their kids, oh, this is how you please your mate. Just because of embarrassment or being inappropriate or whatever the case may be. So, you know, we get to a point where, you know, after we've lost our virginity, we get into adulthood and stuff like that and may not know what it takes to provide that pleasure. And me personally, I feel like a lot of it comes naturally based on how you feel about the person. You know, and this is why it's so important to be in tune with the person and why you have those conversations before engaging in any type of intimacy. And because a lot of that comes naturally. I mean, if you care about a person, you're going to want to please them regardless. And a lot of times you take the time out, because if somebody really cares about you or you care about that person, you take the time to get to know, you know, what their likes are and what their dislikes are in order for you both to be satisfied. What'd you say, Marquise? You said you gotta take it slow. Yes, take it slow. Take your time, you know? Then you said you have to learn what she wants. Yes, exactly. Learn what the person wants. And not just for women too, but for men. Because, you know, men like to have that sense of being desired just as much as women do. Of course, their pleasure points may be different in different areas of the body than ours, but they still like to have that desired feeling. But yes, I agree with you. Take your time. Get in tune with that other person. Morgana, what did you say? You said you do have to learn each other. Yeah, you have to learn each other. And granted, I know that a lot of us being young have made mistakes, you know what I mean, and rush into things not knowing. You know what I mean? That's everybody's story. Everybody that's been there. There's no perfect person at all, period. So a lot of us have made those mistakes and rushed into a situation where, you know, what's done is done, and left out of the situation not feeling as satisfied or no type of attachment there. And that's okay, because we all make mistakes. But as you get older, you start to get in tune not only with the other person, but in tune with your own body, knowing what you like. Would you say, Morgana? But silently, not being satisfied is not an option. Exactly. And I just said that. There is a way to let someone know if you are uncomfortable with, you know, telling someone, like, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. I mean, there's ways to move around where you can do that in the act. Excuse me, as I said before, if you're in the middle of it and somebody's doing something that you are not really feeling at all, women, stop making noises. Be quiet. You know what I mean? Be quiet, because if that person cares, they're going to ask you, like, well, what's wrong? Or they're going to get the sense of, she's not really feeling this at all. You know what I mean? Sometimes silent is better in that situation. But before you even get to that point, you definitely need to have that conversation so you know what a person thinks, you know, what they're going to like, what they're not going to like. What'd you say, Marquise? Being sexually, mentally, and spiritually in tune with each other is key way too. Yeah, it's definitely key way. You know what I mean? And I know that not everybody out here has the opportunity to, I shouldn't say opportunity, I should say in a relationship right now. You know what I mean? And if that is the case, then before you jump into a situation, you know, you need to really, like I said, get in tune with that person to where you're comfortable to have that type of conversation. What did you say, Morgana? You said, stop making noise if the noise doesn't match the sensation. Exactly. How many times have you heard, you know, people be hooting and hollering and yelling and screaming all crazy? First of all, one thing's for sure, two things for certain, that nigga ain't killing you like that. If you are, especially for those of you who have had children, vaginal birth children, there is no way a man's penis is going to kill you like that if you done had something the size of a grapefruit come out of there. So ladies, stop faking it. Don't fake it. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later before we end this off. But yes, like I said, get into, you know what I mean? Get into, have that conversation with your partner. Let them know, let her know, like, listen, baby, like, you know, I like when you did this. Or, you know what I mean? And never make it a situation where you come out and say, I don't like that. You know what I mean? Because that can make someone shy away from doing anything at all. You know what I mean? But whatever you do find that you like, put emphasis on that. Make it a big deal. Like, you know, I really like when you did this. You know what I mean? You know, I felt like this when you did that. I think that's my favorite. You know what I'm saying? Like, really, because you want to boost that confidence in your partner. You know what I mean? Especially if it's something that you like. So you definitely want to go into it with, like, put emphasis on the things that you like, so that way you can be satisfied as well. And on top of that, for a man's perspective, you know what I mean? It make him feel more of a man and make him more into it and make him more want to please you on that level, especially when you cater into the ego or something that makes you feel good. It's going to make him feel good and vice versa. What you say, Morgana? Do not fake it till you make it. Yeah, don't fake it till you make it at all. Please don't fake it. Men too, y'all don't fake it either, because if it's trash, you need to make that clear in a polite way. Don't be rude, y'all. You need to let them know. Let them know. But anyways, that was just a little small tidbit on the pleasure principle. Like I said, you guys can look it up. Google it. Sigmund Freud. Very, very good points about the pleasure principle. And I think it applies to everything. All of our urges, all of our wants. You know what I mean? That is going to satisfy our physical and mental needs. But going into, you know, if foreplay is a lack of knowledge or a lack of effort, and as I said before, a lot of times, you know, if you don't get good at something, then you probably don't do it enough. You know what I mean? And this goes for the people who may be a little bit less experienced in foreplay. I'm not talking about just the actual act of sex, intercourse, whatever you want to call it. I'm talking about, like I said, the build up. You may not have done it enough. So, you know, now's the time to learn. If you have not gotten to that point, especially if you are, you know, my age or older, I'm going to say, you should very well kind of know what you're doing. And the older you get better at it. At the end of the day, you treat that like it's a sport. You know what I mean? Give 110%. Be the best that you can at it. You know what I mean? Look at it like it's a sport. You know what I mean? You got to be the best at it. And I keep repeating that. Like, you have to be the best at it. What'd you say? Yeah, or he says if you don't use it, you lose it. Yes, exactly. And like I said, if you haven't got good at something, if you have not mastered the art yet, then you probably don't do it enough. And there's no issue with that, but, you know, you need practice. You know what I mean? So now it's time to perfect that craft. So that way, not only you can be satisfied, but your partner can be satisfied as well. What'd you say, Marquise? The more you use it, the better you get at it. Exactly. It's like a muscle. You know what I mean? You got to work that thing out. Get that thing oiled down. So, going back into lack of knowledge, as I said before, most people kind of shy away from, you know, what they feel they don't know. And sometimes are, you know, a little bit scared to ask. And like I said, that goes back to having that conversation. Even if you don't feel comfortable with coming out directly saying, like, what do you like? Or, do you like this? It's a way that that conversation can flow. Y'all hit me up for tips on that, how to get that through. Y'all hit me up for tips on if, especially for my ladies, if it's trash, how do you handle that? You know what I mean? Because I feel like when it comes down to foreplay, sex, that can be taught. Same way you teach people how to treat you, how to love you, that can also be taught. Especially if, and this is for my ladies, if the man, fits the bar when it comes down to size and, what you're like, what's going to fit you, it can be taught. Morgana, you said, experimentation should always be open. Yes, it should be. And like I said, a lot of times, that goes back to whatever you are into as far as fantasy-wise. If that person is uncomfortable telling you, like, this is what I like out of embarrassment, then it's going to make it hard for you guys to get on the same page, to get in tune. So you have to be open-minded. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to shy that person away from telling you what is going to satisfy them. Hence, that could cause that person to go and get it somewhere else, because what you won't do, somebody else will. And I'm not going to sit up here and say that you should do things that you don't necessarily like doing or is out of your realm of things, sexually to do. All I'm saying is that if you are with someone and you're aiming to please and you want them to be satisfied as well as you to be satisfied, then it's got to be some give and take situation. You got to be able to be open-minded and have those discussions. You know what I mean? And that just comes with that person having a lack of knowledge. So, like I said, foreplay, sex can be taught. You teach that person and vice versa. Now, hold on, I'll get some water. Anyways, while I'm getting my little water drink, any thoughts on that? What y'all think? Am I on the right track? Am I missing anything, y'all? Y'all let me know. Let's get black to it. Check out some of these comments. Morgana, you said, I will not be with someone that I'm embarrassed to tell what makes me feel good and vice versa. Exactly. That is the main thing, facts. You know what I mean? Like, don't put yourself in a situation where you can't talk to that person or let them know, what you're feeling. What you like, what are your dislikes. Who we got on here? Thank you guys for the comments. These are really good comments. I appreciate y'all's opinions, for real. But anyways, going into lack of effort. You have people out there that are selfish when it comes to foreplay and sex. And a lot of times, and I'm not just going to say men, I'm going to say women too. A lot of times, they expect to receive but not expect to give. I think, and this is just my personal opinion, because I know there's some men out there that don't like doing the whole oral thing at all, period, but they expect for someone to do it on them. You know what I mean? Like, it's not fair. Not fair at all. So, you have those people out there that are selfish. Same thing with women. There's some women out there that don't like doing oral, but they expect to get it. You know what I mean? You are some selfish people. Y'all better get on with it. Like I said, again, it's one thing when someone is willing to put forth the effort, but it's another thing when someone is not willing to put forth the effort. So, if that's the situation, and why should you be the person putting in all the work and this other person doesn't want to participate? That's just selfish. And that lets you know, especially when it comes to the men, because most men are going to have an orgasm regardless. You know what I mean? Women work a little bit differently because it is a feeling there. It's an emotional connection. You know what I mean? And it takes us a minute to get that type of build up. You know what I mean? We can't just go like y'all go. So that is going to let you know if the guy that you are dealing with is, number one, selfish and is just only interested in, getting his rocks off and don't really care about yours. You want to put yourself in a situation where someone is willing to make an effort, willing to have those conversations, and also willing to have that excitement there on pleasing the next person. You know what I mean? What'd you say? Let me go back up, Marquise, that I missed some of your comments. You said, what if I'm a man that likes to do it in the restaurant? In the restaurant? What does that do to the psyche? What you mean you like to do it in a restaurant? Like spontaneous places? Please elaborate on that. Yes, I'm thinking that what you're saying when you said those are boys are the ones who are selfish. Yeah, definitely. When you're dealing with a grown man and a grown woman, it's not too many of us out there that's going to, be selfish when it comes to that, especially if you're interested in the person. Morgana, you said restaurants are fine as long as you both agree and don't get caught. Okay. You said this is the only place where tit for tat is allowed. Y'all crazy. Y'all crazy. Don't know about the restaurants. Like I said, to each his own. Some people get the excitement of almost getting caught or feeling like they're about to get caught. You know what I mean? So hey, if that's where you like to be at, then that's cool. That's what's up. But going back to what I had said earlier, again, it's so important not to fake it. You know what I mean? And it's okay to give direction. And like I said, if you in the middle of the act of it and you're not feeling it, ladies, just be quiet. Men, just don't say nothing at all, period. You know what I mean? In the event if it's something that you do like, that's when you become a little bit boisterous. Because a lot of times when you're dealing with men, like, when you become boisterous, they're into the whole sounds and, how it's going to make you feel. That'll get you both to that point that you need to be. And Marquise, stop going into restaurants. Like, yeah. that's a lot. It's a lot going on. But anyways, y'all, we're going to end up wrapping this up, like I said. But just going back through, what I said before. What constitutes foreplay, is it mental versus physical? And to be honest, like I said, I feel like it's more mental because that build-up matters. It's more mental for definitely the female, the woman in the situation, because it takes us a while to get to that point. You know what I mean? We can't just hop on it and be ready to drop of a dime. You know what I mean? A lot of women like to have that desire feeling. So depending on, which one you like the best, mental or physical, or even both for that matter, figure out what's going to work for you. You know what I mean? The root of foreplay is feeling desire. You know what I mean? So you need to figure out what makes you feel desired. You know what I mean? Like I said, that is some of the reasoning for, especially for women not being able to have an orgasm properly, or with each person that they're with. You know what I mean? And I'm sure that it's a lot of women out there who have experienced that, where they have, slept with someone, or however you want to call it, got involved with someone, and they don't have an orgasm. And a lot of times that has to do with either you not having those conversations up front, either that man is just, could be selfish, or he doesn't know any better. So, ladies, like I said before, you have that conversation. Let that man know exactly what you like. Same thing with the men. You let these women know exactly what you like. And that way they know. You know what I mean? And like I said, element of surprise. And what makes you feel better is when you have those conversations with someone, and depending on the timing, and you let them know, like, this is what I like, this is what, gets me going or whatever, and then when it comes down to the actual act of it, you don't have to say anything and that person delivers. That has got to make you feel like, wow, this person really was listening to me. You know what I mean? He listened when I said, I want a massage ahead of time. I want the lights to be like this. I like music. I like for you to touch here and touch there. And, so much time goes by and y'all get into the act and this person actually does it. And then it makes you feel like, wow, he was really listening or she was really paying attention. I didn't tell her nothing. You know what I mean? Now, what y'all can't do is get all this information and only deliver it once. You know what I mean? You can't throw all your tricks out there at one time. You know what I mean? So if this person likes a number of things, if they're telling you, they like their body rubbed down, the music got to be right, they like to be kissed here or whatever, in some cases, you can't throw all your tricks out in the beginning. You know what I mean? Just do a couple of them things, and then the next time you keep building up to that to keep the spice going. That may be another topic I may talk about, how to keep the spice going when you're in a relationship. That's a good topic because I know that sometimes some things can die down. It happens. You know what I mean? Whether work come into play, stress, whatever the case may be, because a lot of times we tend to stop delivering who the person was attracted to in the beginning after you've been in a relationship so long. So that may be another topic I may talk about, how to keep the spice up there. But anyways, like I said, wrapping it up, pleasure principle. Y'all look that up, look into it. Now, when you look into, Sigmund Freud's theory of the pleasure principle, he's going to go into, your ID, your super ego, your alter ego, starting from, birth on. If you guys take a look at that, apply it to when it comes to foreplay and sex, about those urges and separating fantasy from reality, or how to make your fantasy become a reality. You know what I mean? Would you say, Morgana, each party needs to have all of the information to make informed decisions? Exactly. Facts. Keep building. Yep. Hey, Christina. And then, like I said, going into knowledge versus effort. Like I said, some people don't know any better. They don't know because this is not something that can be taught. And it can only be taught when you are dealing with another person that you are intimate with. And this is why, like I said, the people that have a lack of knowledge and don't know any better are the ones that do the same little 3 to 5 tricks on each woman, and they finally get to that person, that man or woman, and it doesn't work. And it ain't a stump because they feel like, well, I've been doing it right all this time. Perfect example, you take a man, has the same little 3 tricks, whatever they may be, 3 to 5 tricks, whatever, and he has been going through his sex life thinking that he is that nigga. And then when he get with someone that's like, that wasn't that great. You know what I mean? Then he look at it like, well, everybody else said that they liked it. You know what I mean? They ain't have no problem with it. But a lot of you women keep quiet. Y'all stop doing that, ladies. Let these men know. So that way they can be better and better at it. You know what I mean? And I'm not necessarily saying that you got to change anybody, but if we stop making it seem like, this is great and, it feels good to this person, knowing that it doesn't, let them know. Because whoever you are dealing with at the time, they got to fit you. And like I said, especially if everything else adds up. And then for the ones out there that are just a lack of effort because you're being selfish, leave them alone. Let them fall by the wayside. Just because there's no way you're going to be satisfied in a situation like that, and that goes for men and women. You know what I mean? Which leads me to my next question. And I'm saying this for the men and women, and I'm gonna explain on the men's side of it, but when it comes down to size, ladies, the size really matters. And, you guys answer that for some of the men that are on here. Does it really matter? Just because, I've heard some women say, yeah, it's got to be huge or whatever, you know what I mean? And I had some women say, average is cool. It's just about what spot you're hitting and where you're what angle you coming from. You know what I mean? And for the men, same question. I'm just going to rephrase it a little bit different. Not necessarily the size matter, but how does it feel to y'all? You know what I mean? If someone who... Because I like to think that for women, for men, you guys can tell, especially if you're in tune with a person, if this person have had too many bodies. You know what I mean? If it's being kind of stretched out. Even though your vajayjay, your hoo-ha is supposed to be like elastic, a lot of times if you run through a lot, it does changes. It changes the shape of it. You know what I mean? So for men, like I said, y'all don't be silent either. It's so important not to fake it. If it's trash, it's trash. You know what I mean? Like, that's just what it is. But it's just the way that you deliver that. Me personally, I feel like in some instances, size does matter. However, let's just say, for instance, you're in a situation, ladies, with a man, and it may not be the size that you are accustomed to or that you've experienced, but everything else falls into play. You know what I mean? Like, this person treats you right. He fits the box all the way 100%, except for in that area. You know, the size may be a little bit off. However, it's not that you can't get satisfaction. What do you do in that situation? How do you fix that? Because again, remember what I said, I feel like sex and foreplay can be taught. So what do you do in a situation when you have a man where, you know, the size is not what you are accustomed to, and it may be a situation where you have an orgasm maybe sometimes. How do you handle that situation? You know what I mean? What y'all think about that? Well, I'm going to tell y'all this. And I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for anyone else. But if I was in that particular situation, number one, it's hard to find someone that meets all of your check marks. You know what I mean? And I'm not sitting up here saying that you're supposed to just deal with, you know, trash sex for the rest of your life or for the rest of the relationship. But if it's a situation where that person has made you get to that point, in most cases or in some cases, then you need to put emphasis on, think about in that moment when you were able to reach that particular climax, what was that person doing? Put emphasis on that. So that way, hopefully every time you are satisfied. I'm not going to say just throw the whole nigga away. You know what I mean? And the same thing with men. Now, so in some instances, you know, you can't help that. I know, like I said before, when it comes down to hygiene, that is a big thing. You know, ladies, we got to keep up on that. Make sure that it's in tune. And like I said, a lot of men will just dive right in. Those dive in. But the ones that don't, you know, a lot of times they're uncomfortable with saying, you know, it's kind of a little, something got a little taint. You know what I'm saying? But there's a way to relay that information politely. And like I said, y'all hit my inbox for any tips and stuff like that you guys are, you know, wanting to know. Because I have plenty of them that have never failed me. You know what I mean? So I don't know. You know, I can only give out what I know. And hey, it may work for the next person. But anyways, like I said, we are going to go ahead and close out. You know, I've been on here for almost an hour now, and I want to thank you guys for tuning in to another Sunday's Food for Thought. I hope that this has been, you know, informational for you guys, and I want to thank you for all of the comments that everybody put on there. You know what I mean? I appreciate the feedback. I appreciate the messages, and, you know, you guys hitting up my inbox. I am going to figure out kind of what we're going to talk about next week. It may be pertaining to, you know, this size matter thing. I don't know yet. But, you know, any suggestions you guys may have, comments, y'all hit me up. Let me know, because I'm all for willing to, you know, talk about it and put it on this platform so we can voice our opinion on it. But I want you guys to enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Have a great, productive work week. You know, get to the bag as much as you can. Y'all stay safe. I love you guys. And, you know, I will talk to y'all next week. Peace.
Everything I'll give to you, darling, but until we reach on in your mind.